I accidentally discovered my mother-in-law is dating my father, and nobody wanted to tell me. The kitchen smelled like freshly baked apple pie. I was putting the finishing touches on a lasagna for our monthly family dinner. Ever since Mom passed away from cancer 5 years ago, these gatherings had become our way of staying connected as a family. Dad, Thomas Mitchell, had withdrawn into himself after her death, while I threw myself into building a life with Matt. But once a month, without fail, we'd all get together, sometimes at our place, sometimes at Matt's mom's house in the suburbs. Tonight, dinner was at our brownstone. Dad was supposed to arrive any minute. Barbara, my mother-in-law, had also promised to come. My relationship with her had always been cordial but distant, the typical daughter-in-law and mother-in-law dynamic, where we tolerated each other for the sake of family harmony. But over the past couple of months, something had changed. Barbara had started calling me just to chat, asking about my job at the marketing agency, even sending me her secret recipe for apple pie, though she'd always refused to share her culinary secrets before. My phone buzzed. Dad texting that he was running late from his consulting job downtown. Strange, he was never late. In fact, I'd noticed several unusual changes in him lately. He'd stopped answering calls in the evenings, bought new clothes, and started using an expensive cologne. When I asked him about it, he just laughed it off. "Hope, sweetie, can't a man take care of himself in his golden years?" Matt came home from work, kissed me on the cheek, and immediately headed for the refrigerator. "Is your dad coming?" he asked oddly, avoiding eye contact. "He's running a little late," I replied. "Why?" "No reason, just asking." Matt was clearly nervous. "Is Mom on her way? She should be here any minute." When the doorbell rang, Matt jumped as if he'd received an electric shock. Weird reaction. Barbara stood on the doorstep with a huge cheesecake and a bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet. "Hope, darling," she embraced me with both arms, which was completely out of character. "I've missed you so much." We had seen each other just last week at her book club. Why the sudden affection? "Thomas isn't here yet?" she asked, removing her designer coat. "He's running late from work," I repeated. "You know, he usually never—" I know," Barbara interrupted. "Thomas is such a reliable man." I was struck by the familiarity with which she said my father's name. Not your dad, not your father, but Thomas, as if they were old friends. And there was that strange smile that appeared on her face. At the table, Matt stayed quiet, nervously fidgeting with his napkin. Barbara, on the contrary, was unusually talkative. She told me about her neighbor's renovation drama, the new Netflix show she was binge-watching, and how she'd started taking Pilates classes. All this chattiness was nothing like the reserved, proper Barbara I knew. When Dad finally arrived, I felt the tension among everyone present. He walked in looking somewhat disheveled, carrying a bouquet of flowers, which he immediately handed to Barbara. She blushed like a schoolgirl and fussed over them. "That's so thoughtful, Thomas," she exclaimed, putting them in a vase. "It's nothing, Barb," Dad replied, and I nearly choked at this nickname. Barb? He had never called my mother-in-law that before. During dinner, I felt like an outsider. Matt remained silent, while Dad and Barbara conversed as if they'd known each other for decades. They reminisced about some trip they'd taken. When had they gone anywhere together? Discussed mutual acquaintances, and seemed to understand each other without finishing sentences. After dinner, while Barbara and I were clearing the table, I tried to figure out what was going on. "You and Dad seem to be getting along well lately," I said casually. Barbara froze for a second, then forced a smile. "Yes, Thomas is a fascinating conversationalist. We sometimes meet up to discuss various matters." "What matters?" I pressed. "Well, life things," she answered vaguely. "We're both getting older. We've both experienced a lot. There's plenty to talk about." At that moment, Matt approached us. "Mom, shouldn't you be going?" he asked with strange emphasis. "Early start tomorrow." "Yes, of course," Barbara bustled about. "Thomas, would you mind giving me a ride home?" Dad, who had been examining our bookshelf with great interest, turned around eagerly, which surprised me. "Of course, Barb, I'd be delighted." Then he added, turning to me, "Hope, don't be upset we're leaving so soon. We'll stay longer next time." When the door closed behind them, I turned to my husband. "What was that all about?" I demanded. "What's going on between my father and your mother?" Matt avoided my gaze. "I don't know what you're talking about," he mumbled. "Our parents just became friends. What's wrong with that?" "Barb, seriously? My father hasn't called anyone by a nickname since Mom died. And your mother? She's acting like a lovesick teenager." "You're imagining things." Matt quickly began gathering the remaining dishes. "Let's not discuss this, okay?" I was bewildered. Could there really be something between Dad and Barbara? And why didn't Matt want to talk about it? A week passed. I tried to dismiss my suspicions, but couldn't. Too many strange things were happening. Dad stopped answering his phone in the evenings. When I drove to his house in Westchester unannounced, he wasn't home, though it was late evening, and he never used to go out after 8. On Friday, I decided to visit my nephew, Jake, Matt's sister's son. The boy had just turned 12, and I'd promised him the latest PlayStation. When I arrived, Jake wasn't home. He was at soccer practice. His mother, Lisa, Matt's sister, welcomed me. "Come in, Hope," she said cheerfully. "Jake will be back soon. Coffee?" We sat in her kitchen nook, chatting about everything and nothing. Then Lisa asked, "How do you feel about the new relationship between our parents?" I froze, coffee cup in hand. "What do you mean, new relationship?" I asked cautiously. Lisa looked at me in surprise. "Well, your dad and my mom, they've been dating for several months now." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Dating? What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said," Lisa frowned. "Don't tell me you didn't know. They're practically inseparable. Mom even seems younger, I swear. Your dad is a wonderful man. I'm really happy for them." I set my cup down on the table, afraid it might slip from my suddenly weakened fingers. "No, I didn't know," I said quietly. "Nobody told me anything." "Oh God," Lisa covered her mouth. "I'm sorry, I thought you knew. Matt said you guys had discussed it." At that moment, Jake burst into the apartment, flushed from practice. He threw his arms around my neck. "Aunt Hope, did you bring the PlayStation?" I hugged my nephew, trying to hide the storm of emotions raging inside. "Of course I did," I smiled. "And I brought you that new game too." "Awesome!" Jake jumped excitedly. "Thanks. Hey, did you know that Grandma and your dad are like a couple now? They even go to movies together." Lisa shot her son a warning look, but it was too late. I already understood everything. When I returned home, Matt wasn't back from work yet. I sat in the dark living room, waiting for him. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Why did everyone know except me? Why had Matt hidden the truth from me? He came home around 8, turned on the light, and startled when he saw me. "Hope? Why are you sitting in the dark?" "I visited Lisa today," I began without preamble. "She told me about Dad and your mother." Matt froze in place. His expression confirmed everything. "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice trembled. He slowly sank into the armchair across from me. "I wanted to, I really did," he said quietly, "but I didn't know how you'd react. I was afraid you'd be upset." Upset? I felt anger rising inside me. I'm furious, not because they're dating, but because nobody thought I deserved to know. Everyone in our family circle knows about this except me. Even my own father didn't tell me. "We just wanted to protect you," Matt tried to justify himself. "We were waiting for the right time to tell you." Protect me from what? From the truth? From reality? I shook my head. "You know what hurts the most? That you all decided I wouldn't be able to handle this news. As if I'm some emotionally unstable person who needs to be sheltered from life." Matt sat in silence, head bowed. "I'm going to see Dad," I said resolutely. "I want to hear the truth from him." "Hope, it's getting late." "I don't care." I grabbed my purse and car keys and rushed out of the apartment. The drive to Dad's house took about 30 minutes. The whole time, I tried to calm down, but couldn't. My thoughts were jumbled. I didn't know what to say to Dad, how to start this conversation. I parked outside his house and froze when I saw Barbara's BMW in the driveway. They were together. My hands were shaking as I entered the security code for the front gate. I rang the doorbell. Dad opened the door. He wore a casual t-shirt and jeans, looking younger than his years. Seeing me, his expression changed. "Hope, is everything wrong?" "May I come in?" I asked coldly. He stepped aside, letting me into the house. In the living room, Barbara sat on the couch. There were 2 glasses of wine and an open box of chocolates on the coffee table. Domestic bliss. "Hope, dear." Barbara stood up, clearly embarrassed. What a surprise. "I visited Lisa today," I said, not hiding the bitterness in my voice. "She told me about you and Dad." Silence fell. Dad and Barbara exchanged glances like guilty children. Finally, Dad sighed. "Sit down, Hope," he said, gesturing to an armchair. "Let's talk." I remained standing. What is there to talk about? About the fact that you've been dating for 6 months behind my back? About the fact that our entire family knows, except me? About the fact that you all decided I wasn't capable of accepting the truth? "Hope, we didn't want to upset you," Barbara began. "I'm not upset about your relationship. I'm upset about the lies. Everyone kept this secret from me, making decisions behind my back. Why? Why did you assume I wouldn't understand?" Dad approached me, tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "Hope, forgive us," he said quietly. "We were afraid. You took your mother's death so hard. I didn't want to cause you new pain. The pain isn't from you dating Barbara, but from you not trusting me enough to tell me." I wiped away tears. "You held these family dinners, pretended nothing was happening, while you were—" "We were going to tell you," Barbara interrupted. "Honestly, we were just waiting for the right moment." "And when would that be?" when you decided to get married." They exchanged glances again, and I realized I'd hit the mark. "Oh my God," I whispered. "You're really planning to get married?" "We're thinking about it," Dad admitted quietly, "but not right away. And we wanted to talk to you first. But you didn't talk to me for months." "We were afraid of your reaction," Dad repeated. "I know how much you cherish your mother's memory, how often you talk about her. I was afraid you'd see this as betrayal." "I'm not a child, Dad," I exclaimed. "Mom died 5 years ago. 5 years. I've made peace with it long ago, and I've always wanted you to be happy. But instead of talking to me, you chose to hide." Barbara approached me. "Hope, we're very sorry. It was my idea not to tell you right away. I was afraid you'd be against it, and I'd have to choose between happiness with your father and my relationship with my son. And it was easier to lie to my face, to arrange these family dinner performances where you pretended to barely know each other." "We were wrong." Dad took my hand. "This time, I didn't pull away. Please forgive us." I looked at him and saw how he had changed over these last few months. Younger, shoulders straighter. There was a sparkle in his eyes that had been missing since Mom died. I really did want him to be happy. But this lie? "I'm not against your relationship," I said finally. "I'm against how you treated me. I feel betrayed, the last one to learn the truth." "We'll make it right," Dad promised. "We'll be honest with each other from now on. No more secrets." "And I'm supposed to believe you after this?" Barbara unexpectedly began to cry. I'd never seen her cry before. "Hope, forgive us," she said through tears. "We were so afraid of losing you. Your father loves you so much, and I've grown fond of you too, even though you probably think we never got along." I looked at them, 2 older people who found each other after long years of loneliness, who were so afraid of my reaction that they preferred to hide their feelings. It was both touching and hurtful at the same time. "I need time," I said finally. "I can't just pretend nothing happened, that you didn't lie to me for months." "Take all the time you need," Dad squeezed my hand. "Just don't shut us out, please." I nodded and left the house. I got home after midnight. Matt was waiting for me, sitting in the kitchen with a mug of cold coffee. "Did you talk to them?" he asked, looking up at me anxiously. "Yes." I sat across from him. "They admitted they're planning to get married." Matt sighed. "I knew it was heading that way. Mom's been so happy lately." "And you? Are you happy they'll be together?" "Of course." He looked at me in surprise. "Aren't you?" I thought about it. Did their relationship really bother me, or just the way they had handled it? "I'm not against Dad being happy," I said finally. "Your mother, she's a good woman, strict but fair, and she's clearly in love with Dad." "So what's the problem?" "The problem is that I was lied to, all of you. The problem is that I feel like a fool who was the last to know what was happening in her own family." Matt took my hand. "Hope, we thought it was for the best. We wanted to spare you any stress. Stop talking to me like I'm mentally unstable." I pulled my hand away. "I don't need to be spared from stress. I need honesty, especially from my husband and father." "I'm sorry," Matt said quietly. "We made a mistake. I made a mistake hiding this from you. I was worried you might object, that our parents wouldn't be able to be together because of it. So you decided lying was better?" I decided to wait until they told you themselves. It wasn't my secret to tell Hope. I rubbed my tired eyes. I need some time to process all this, I said finally. I can't just pretend nothing happened. The next few weeks were tense. I didn't answer calls from Dad or Barbara, avoided family gatherings. Matt tried to talk to me, but I brushed him off. I needed time to think, to understand my feelings. One morning, I woke up with a headache. Rain pattered against the window. Matt had already left for work, leaving a note. "Call your dad. He's really worried." I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. At work, I couldn't concentrate. My thoughts kept returning to Dad and Barbara, how they met at the doctor's office, how they started dating, hiding their relationship, how they planned to get married without telling me a word. It hurt. After work, I stopped by Whole Foods. I was in the produce section examining tomatoes when I heard a familiar voice. Barbara. She was talking to another woman a few feet away from me. "Thomas is an amazing man," Barbara was saying. "I never thought I could find such love at my age." "How did your daughter-in-law take the news?" the woman asked. Barbara sighed. "Hope hasn't spoken to us for 3 weeks. We kept it from her and now she's hurt. I understand her, but I so want her to accept our relationship." I quietly moved away, not wanting to be noticed. Something tugged at my heart. Barbara truly cared about my approval. She wasn't just pretending. At home, a surprise awaited me. On the kitchen table stood a bouquet of white lilies, my favorite flowers, and a box of chocolates. Next to them lay a note. "Hope, please forgive this old man. I was wrong. Love you, Dad." I sat down and burst into tears. For all these weeks, I'd been holding back tears, trying to be strong. Now I was crying like a little girl. Dad knew exactly how to touch my heart. Knew that white lilies were my favorites, that I loved chocolate with hazelnuts. He remembered these details about his daughter, and could I not forgive him for finding happiness? That evening, Matt called to say he was working late. I sat in silence, thinking, did Dad and Barbara's relationship really bother me? Or just the lie? Mom had died of cancer 5 years ago. It was a difficult time for the whole family, especially Dad. He withdrew into himself, almost stopped communicating with friends. His life became a routine. Work, home, work, home. And now he had finally met a woman with whom he felt good. Shouldn't I be happy for him? I picked up my phone and called Dad. He answered after the first ring, as if he'd been sitting with the phone in his hand, waiting for my call. "Hope?" There was hope in his voice. "Thanks for the flowers," I said, "and the chocolates." "Are you still angry?" I sighed. "Yes, but I want to talk. Can I come over?" "Of course." Dad sounded delighted. "Come right now. I'll be waiting." Half an hour later, I was at his place. Dad opened the door and hugged me tightly. He smelled of familiar cologne and home warmth. "Come in," he said, ushering me into the house. "Tea?" "Yes, please." We sat in the kitchen, drinking tea with the chocolates he'd given me. We were silent, not knowing how to start the conversation. "Are you happy with her?" I finally asked. Dad hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Hope, she's a wonderful woman, strong, smart, with a sense of humor. With her, I feel alive again." "Why didn't you tell me right away?" He sighed. "I was afraid. You loved your mother so much, took her passing so hard. I thought you'd think I was betraying her memory. And then, Barbara is Matt's mother. I was afraid you'd think it was all too weird. Isn't it? I laughed wryly. Maybe it is, Dad agreed. But you know, at our age, it's not so easy to meet someone you want to spend the rest of your life with. When your mother died, I thought that was it, the end, that I'd be alone forever. And then I met Barbara at the doctor's office, and something clicked. I looked at him and saw how his eyes shone when he talked about Barbara. He didn't look guilty or embarrassed. He looked in love. I'm happy for you, Dad, I said sincerely. Really, I am. It's just, it hurt that you all kept this from me, that you decided I wouldn't be able to understand and accept. We were wrong. Dad took my hand. I should have told you everything right away, trusted you. Forgive me, Hope. I nodded, feeling tears welling up. I forgive you, but no more secrets, deal? Deal. I finished my tea and looked at the clock. I should go. Matt will be home from work soon. Say hi to him for me, said Dad. And maybe this Sunday you'll come to dinner, to our place, mine and Barbara's. I hesitated, but then nodded. Okay, we'll come. On Sunday, Matt and I arrived at Barbara's suburban house. Opening the door to her home, I still felt awkward. How do I talk to her now that I know she's dating my father? That she might soon become my stepmother? Dad and Barbara greeted us together. They were holding hands, not hiding their feelings. Barbara looked younger than usual, a new haircut, light makeup. Dad stood beside her, shoulders proudly squared. Come in, Barbara fussed. I made roast duck with orange sauce. Hope you like that, don't you? I do. I nodded. It was strange that Barbara knew my culinary preferences. During dinner, the atmosphere gradually relaxed. We talked about work, recent news, summer vacation plans. No one mentioned our argument, the weeks of silence. But I could feel how everyone was being especially attentive to me, as if afraid to offend me again. After dinner, while Matt helped Dad set up a new smart TV, Barbara and I stayed in the kitchen alone. She was washing dishes. I was drying. Hope, Barbara suddenly said, not looking at me. I want you to know I'm not trying to replace your mother. I know how much you loved her. I paused, plate in hand. I hadn't thought about that, I answered honestly. Really? Barbara turned to me. I was afraid you'd see Thomas's and my relationship as a betrayal of her memory. No, I shook my head. Mom died 5 years ago. I want Dad to be happy, and if he's happy with you, I'm glad. Barbara smiled, and I noticed for the first time what a warm smile she had. Thank you, she said quietly. That means a lot to me. You know, I've been alone for many years. After divorcing Matt's father, I thought I'd live out the rest of my life alone. And then I met your father. And fell in love? I couldn't help smiling. Yes, she blushed. Sounds silly, doesn't it? At our age? Not silly at all, I interrupted. Love has no age. What matters is that you're happy together. We are happy. Barbara seemed to grow younger as she said this. Your father is a wonderful man, kind, attentive, with a sense of humor. I know, I nodded. He's always been that way. We were silent for a moment. I wanted to tell you everything right away, Barbara suddenly confessed, but I was afraid you'd be against it, that Matt would be caught between us. It was stupid. It was. I agreed. But it's all okay now. Barbara unexpectedly hugged me. It was so unlike her, always reserved, proper. I froze for a second, then hugged her back. "Thank you," she whispered. At that moment, Dad and Matt entered the kitchen. "Well, look at that," Dad exclaimed, seeing us. "And I was worried you two would argue." "No, Dad," I smiled. "We just had a woman-to-woman talk." Matt approached me, put his arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I nodded. "Everything's fine now." 2 months passed. Dad and Barbara announced they had decided to get married. A modest ceremony, just for family and close friends. They asked me to be the witness from Dad's side, Matt from Barbara's. We agreed. Wedding preparations brought us all closer. I helped Barbara choose a dress, Dad a suit. Together, we planned the menu for the celebration dinner, compiled the guest list. The evening before the wedding, I went to Dad's to help with final preparations. He was nervous, like a young man before his first date. "Do you think she'll like it?" he asked, showing me the ring he'd chosen for Barbara. A simple gold band with a small diamond. "Of course she'll like it," I smiled. "It's very elegant, just like her." Dad paced nervously around the room. "Hope, I want to ask you something. Are you really okay with our wedding? You don't think I'm betraying your mother's memory?" I went to him, hugged him. "Dad, I'm happy for you, truly. Mom would have wanted you not to be alone, to live life to the fullest." "You think so?" His voice trembled. "I'm sure," I squeezed his hand. "Mom always wanted us to be happy. You deserve happiness, Dad." He hugged me tightly, and I felt the tension of the past months finally leaving him. "Thank you, Hope," he whispered. "You have no idea how much your words mean to me." On the wedding day, Barbara looked beautiful in her elegant champagne-colored dress. Dad couldn't take his eyes off her. When they exchanged rings, I noticed tears glistening in Matt's eyes. He caught my gaze and smiled. At the celebration dinner, Dad raised his glass and proposed a toast. "I want to thank all of you for sharing this happy day with us. Especially, I want to thank my daughter, Hope. Without her support and understanding, this day might not have happened." I felt a lump rise in my throat. After dinner, when the guests had dispersed, Matt and I stayed to help clean up. I went out onto the patio to get some fresh air. A minute later, Matt joined me. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, putting his arm around my shoulders. "About how strangely life turns out," I replied. "Not long ago, I couldn't imagine my father and your mother together, and now they're husband and wife." "Does that bother you?" I thought for a second, then shook my head. "No, they're happy together. That's what matters." "And you? Are you happy?" I turned to face him. "Yes, but you know what I learned over these months? That truth, whatever it may be, is always better than lies, even when those lies come from good intentions. Lies destroy trust, and without trust, there's no real closeness." Matt nodded. "I'll remember that," he said seriously. "No secrets between us, I promise." From inside came laughter. Dad was telling Barbara some story. They sat side by side on the couch, holding hands. Two people who found happiness in each other in their later years. I smiled, watching them. Life doesn't always work out the way we plan. Sometimes it brings pain, sometimes unexpected joy. The important thing is to be able to accept changes, not fear them. And always, always tell the truth to those you love. Shall we join them? Matt suggested. Let's go, I agreed, taking his hand. We returned to the room where Dad and his new wife waited for us with smiles. Our new, strange, but happy family.